Cool. So this is my presentation on animation. I'll start off with the table of contents. So I'm just going to go over a little bit brief history, and then the two animation practices that I'm going to cover are motion capture, and the person I'm looking at that is for that is Andy Serkis, and then Dynamation, and it's Ray Harryhausen, I want to say, yeah, and then it's just a bibliography at the end. So a short history. So this is a cave painting. Some cave paintings date back to 40,000 years ago. We're not exactly sure what the purposes are of this, whether it was just creative expression or something like that. But there have been theories that say they might have been used to tell others what game there was to hunt in the area. But if you see this cave painting here, it shows the motion in the legs, which is a good first example of an attempt at animation. And then the next, of course, is Sarah was saying earlier, is the pottery bowl that was found in Iran, and it has a goat leaping across. So there's like 5 separate frames, if you will, and if you spin the pot around, then they mimic movement. Vitruvian Man, Leonardo da Vinci. This again, as Sarah was saying, it was to show the multiple angles of movement for a person. And then the magic lantern was an image projector, pictures on glass sheets. The first example of projected animation, and it was originally conceived in the 1650s. I can't remember how to pronounce this, but basically it was a mechanism where there was a picture on 2 sides of here is like an oval, and if you flicked them, then they would appear. The bird would appear to be in the cage, and then when you stopped, you could see that there were 2 separate pictures of a cage and a bird. So it's an optical illusion, but it's getting more towards animation later on down the road. Then there's the Zoetrope, which was a hollow drum that had interchangeable images on the inside, and when it was spun, the images appeared to move up and down. Like, see this person is zipping themselves back up on a constant loop. And then the Praxinoscope was almost a step up from the Zoetrope. It was using multiple wheels to rotate images, and it is considered to have shown the first prototypes for animated cartoons. So going straight into motion capture, performance capture is a technical process used to translate an actor's performance into a digital character. In some cases, replacing traditional style animation. Sinbad Beyond the Veil of the Mist was the first feature film that predominantly used motion capture. It's not very good if you've ever seen it. And then I suppose the big breakthrough in motion capture was Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, where Andy Serkis played Gollum in real-time motion capture. It's also thought that motion capture stems from rotoscoping an object, because they do essentially the same thing. It's just motion capture will do it in 3D as well. But the first commercial use of rotoscoping is credited to the animator Max Fleischer, I want to say, is how you pronounce that. And it was used in the Out of the Inkwell cartoons, and I have a little example of that here. So. General idea there. And then a more contemporary use for motion capture animation is the example I have here is Hellblade, which is a video game. But it was very loud. Is there controls for the sound up here? Or I'll just mute it. But what it explains here is basically how this woman is doing a live performance. You can see she's just off the stage there, but basically all of the movements that she makes there are being rendered in real time in a virtual space, and it's all very, very, very cool, basically. And it's a huge step forward as well, to have this level of detail and being able to render this much in real time. So I will move on. So techniques. So the way that motion capture is done, basically, it's recorded via synchronized array of specialized cameras, and what these cameras look out for are either acoustic, inertial, LED, magnetic, or reflective markers, and those are those sort of ping-pong looking things that you see in the mocap suits. You can have a look at it, and I have a little video here with Andy Serkis in it, explaining the Imaginatorium, Imaginarium, should I say. And basically, the camera then sends that data to a computer, which makes a 3D skeleton of the movement, because it knows where each individual dot is. It can then sort of figure out where everything else is, and a 3D skeleton is made. And then what's done after that is they can, in real time, they can put a 3D skin on that skeleton, and you'll see what I mean here.
Is in fact not Dawson at the moment. He is in fact a gladiator. You can probably see if you come over here. If you come over this way, I can point out exactly what I'm talking about. So Dawson is in fact a real actor, and this character is that you can see behind you is a digital character, an avatar as we call them, and they are created by the cameras pointing down at these dots, and then taking all of Dawson's movements and acting the performance and translating it onto a digital character in real time. If you'd just like to demonstrate some of your
So leave that there. He explains a lot better than I do. There's also another little cool thing that they have there, is they have a virtual camera. So they literally just have like a monitor and a shoulder rig, and a couple of tracking dots on it, and so they can move around in a 3D space, and get the sort of shots that you'd normally get, but it's all virtual, basically. So yeah, Andy Serkis, he played Gollum in Lord of the Rings, which is the first feature film to utilize the real-time motion capture system, and he also co-founded the Imaginarium as well. So, and then two of the examples of the work were Caesar and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and then Supreme Leader Snoke in Star Wars. So next I'll move on to dynamation, not quite. But anyway, it was how Ray Harryhausen calls his innovative technique of split screen and stop motion. So it kind of brings together what would have been early green screen and then stop motion as well. It was primarily used between 1953 and 1981, and a good example of it is Jason and the Argonauts, and I'll get back to that later on. So this is really complicated, and it's going to take a little bit of time to explain, but the techniques were, the first step in dynamation was to film the background image, so that would be sort of like the clean plate where the actors were. And in order to get the background image, the camera would be locked in position on a real location. The actors would then be filmed running toward the camera or wherever they were going. Then that film would be developed and loaded into a projector. The projector then projects the first frame onto a back projection screen. And back projection screen is a thin piece of plastic stretched tightly across a frame. A motion picture camera is then loaded with film, locked into position in front of the screen, so it can rephotograph the film clip. A piece of glass is then put between the camera and the screen. It gets very complicated, but this is a good illustration of what happens. So over here is where it's projected onto the screen, and then there's a foreground or anything put in there. Yeah, if you'll bear with me. A piece of glass is then put between the camera and the camera screen. Glass is painted with black, So the portions of the image on the screen that are in front of the figure, the foreground, are blacked out when seen by the camera. And then continued in between the glass and the screen, a table is set up where a miniature dinosaur or figure or a skeleton, as in the case of Jason and the Argonaut, is placed. The table might also hold anything the figure might directly interact with during the scene, so if they need to pick up something or anything like that. The figure is carefully positioned so that it matches the size and position with the image as seen through the camera. Very important step. And the film in the projector is advanced one frame at a time. With each frame, the figure is moved to simulate walking out from behind a building or doing whatever it's doing. After the position of the figure is correct, camera captures one frame and at this point shows the background image on the upper half of the screen. The model figure or dinosaur in front of it, and the blacked out portions of the glass. After the entire scene has been filmed, both the projector and the camera are rewound back to the beginning. The glass is removed and another sheet of glass is inserted. The new glass is the reverse of the first one, though as the portions of the glass that were clear now have been painted over, and the sections that were blacked out are now clear. The model dinosaur and the table are cleared away, and the film is reshot again, this time exposing the foreground of the image, which had been before been blacked out. When the film from the camera is developed, the view, it will show the dinosaur apparently moving out from behind the building. So this is Ray Harryhausen. Despite the success in early movies such as King Kong, the technique of stop motion animation had its weaknesses. The miniature sets were expensive to construct, and it was very difficult to combine live action and in the same frame as stop motion creatures. While working on a low budget film called The Beast from 2000 Fathoms, Harryhausen came up with the technique he later called the dynamination that eased both of these problems. So two examples of the work are Jason and the Argonauts. It's important to point out as well that it's a very impressive piece of work, I think, because getting to that point where, because the actors are there and they're slashing at nothing, and it looks like they're actually fighting skeletons, so I think it's pretty cool. And then a more contemporary version of it would be Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the opening scene of it. They incorporated a whole lot of other things, including miniatures and whatnot, but oh cool, that's great. So I'll just explain that really quickly. They had a scene where they had rear projection and a stop motion Terminator basically walking around shooting, and they were talking all about how they had very specific lighting setups as well for like the flash of the gun or the spotlight going over everything. Yeah, that's a little disappointing. It was a really cool clip, but anyway, I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much for listening.